and play up to our standards.
But Miami faces a Jet team flying high with 2 victories in their first 3 matches.
It's Patrick under center, second down 7 from the Colt 15. The snap, drops back 3, launches a right-handed pass, far side, caught on a spin on the sideline, and into the end zone for a touchdown. What a catch by Brandon Marshall.
It's breakfast at Wembley as the Jets face the Dolphins. Now, let's head to the pitch and join the 2 chaps calling today's match, Kevin Lee and Brady Papinga.
Good morning and cheers from the United Kingdom, where the 2-1 New York Jets meet the 1-2 Miami Dolphins in the 12th installment of the NFL International Series. Today's broadcast of the National Football League on Westwood One is sponsored by Napa Auto Parts, by Progressive Insurance, by Barbasol Shaving Cream, by Exergent Temporal Scanner Thermometers, by Sports Authority, by Harley Davidson, and by NFL.com. This month marks the 8th anniversary of the first regular season game played here in Wembley Stadium. These same Dolphins lost to the New York Giants, but it was a big win for the league, and they've been coming back every year since. This is, as mentioned, the 12th installment of the International Series, which is designed to translate America's obsession into the world's passion. And today is the first of 3 games to be played in London this season, and there's talk of more in future years. Good morning back in the States, or good afternoon here in the UK. Alongside Brady Papinga, I'm Kevin Lee, getting set for the game, or the match, as they call it here in Great Britain, between the Jets and the Dolphins. You could not ask for any better conditions in October. Sunshine, not a chance of rain. Right now, 63 degrees, up to a high of about 68 this afternoon. The Dolphins have just finished their pregame warm-ups, and just a moment ago went back to their locker room. The Jets are wrapping up as we speak, congregating in the end zone. They'll head back into the locker room for final preparations and instructions in just a moment. I'd like to welcome to the broadcast Brady Papinga, who spent 8 years in the National Football League, mostly with the Green Bay Packers through 2010, where he started at linebacker much of the time. Brady, welcome to Westwood One.
Well, it's great to be here. It's an honor to be in your presence, Kevin, the legend. From what I understand.
This is a fantastic opportunity for all those involved in this international series and this game here in London. It's certainly different circumstances for the teams. Neither really is going to have a home field advantage. Miami is the listed home team. Now, there are a lot of Jets and Dolphins jerseys here, but as we surveyed the stadium coming in, as you walk around town, you see virtually every team in the NFL represented. And NFL is growing here. There are fans of the league, fans of every team, and certainly we see enthusiasm for the NFL and American football in London. But I want to talk with you about how the players approach this game. Certainly it has to be different.
It's drastically different from what they had been doing up until this point. I mean, your sleep schedules are way off. This is here in London. We're 5 hours ahead of the East Coast time. Your travel schedule really puts throws a wrench into your ebb and the flow of your regular practice and meetings, and the way that those all ultimately just ebb and flow through the week. And so really it's just an adjustment, and also in terms of logistics, you're going to different training facilities, different locker rooms, and so for the players, you try to keep, and the coaches, you try to keep it as normal as possible. Let's be honest. It's impossible to keep it as normal as possible. And so really whatever team could just basically make what is an abnormal situation as normal as possible is a team that most likely will play the best today.
And you mentioned that time change, just a couple of days to get acclimated. In previous years, teams have come over early in the week, but both of these teams flew Thursday night and went straight to the practice field when they arrived on Friday morning. All right, let's talk about the game. Miami, in Joe Philbin's 3 years, 7, 8, and 8 wins. Their expectation, I think, was to make the postseason this year. They're not tracking in that direction. How critical are things right now?
They're very critical, and it has to do with the mindset of the team. Right now, you hear that the mindset is really fragile and that they're about ready to lose the team when you talk to coaches, talking about their trust and things of that nature. And the biggest disappointment for me has been their defensive line. Their defensive line, you know, they signed a Ndamukong Suh in the offseason, and they just haven't performed well. When you talk about their disruption factor, they just haven't disrupted offenses in both the running game and in the passing game. And then another disappointing part has been their wide receiving core. They've dropped critical passes, which just throws a wrench into the rhythm of your offense. So defensive line-wise and also on the offensive side with the wide receivers, they just haven't lived up to expectations thus far in the season, hence the reason why they're 1-2.
Different circumstances for the Jets. They won just 4 games last year. Todd Bowles comes in, who, by the way, was an interim head coach just a few years ago for the Dolphins. They started with 2 impressive wins before the setback to the Eagles last week. How much reason for optimism, real optimism, is there with the Jets?
There's a lot, and that's because, first and foremost, Todd Bowles is known as a defensive expert, and let's be honest, they're the best defense in the league, not only statistically, but literally. They're the best when you talk about points given up, with giving up 13.7 points a game. They're the best in takeaways. He has literally brought the same kind of mentality that he had established in Arizona here to New York, and then it doesn't hurt that they also added guys like Antonio Camarada and Darrelle Revis as the shutdown corners to really help Todd Bowles establish his philosophy, which is to press not only in the secondary but also be aggressive in terms of dialing up the blitz in the pass and run game.
One health update, Eric Decker was uncertain coming in. He is going to play. He's one of those guys that can put up numbers for fantasy players. Brady, give us one from each team this afternoon that we should be focusing on that might have big games for their fantasy owners at DraftKings.com.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm going with the New York Jets. I'm going with Brandon Marshall. Yeah. And that's just because he's Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's his favorite target. Up until this point, Brandon Marshall has 23 receptions, 272 yards. He has 3 touchdowns. The guy's a monster catch radius. So basically, you just throw the ball up to the guy, he's going to catch it. And then with the Miami Dolphins, you're going with Jordan Cameron, ladies and gentlemen. He's a tight end, an acquisition this offseason from the Cleveland Browns. And the reason why I'm going with him is because the Miami Dolphins today are going to see a lot of blitzes. And the tight end in a lot of spaces is known as the binky for the quarterback, meaning his security blanket. So look for Ryan Tannehill to rely heavily on Jordan Cameron to help him in those situations where he's getting pressured. He needs a little bit of a security blanket.
And the Dolphins also without their starting left tackle Brandon Albert again today. Much more to come from the UK as we approach kickoff between the Jets and the Dolphins. But when we return, Scott Graham joins us from our Progressive Insurance Studios. Comparing rates to help you save? Now that's Progressive. This is Westwood One's coverage of the National Football League.
Today, my new dad threw a barbecue.
Today, my new son and I threw a barbecue.
There were burgers and chicken.
I burnt everything. The burgers, the chicken, the salad.
They were delicious.
They were awful.
And then we had watermelon.
I'm allergic to watermelon.
And then we played catch.
I broke Mr. Lewis's window, Mrs. Wakeham's window, Mrs. Wakeham's windshield. And then, somehow, my hand. My hand!
And then my dad even let me drive his car.
The hospital's on the right! It was a rough day.
It was a great day.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are. For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Go, Caleb! Come on, hit homer, Jesse!
Let's go, guys!
Hey, did you guys know that kids who play sports earn more money when they grow up?
Of course. I knew that.
Hey, did you guys know that kids who read books have a bigger vocabulary?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Wow, jinx. Did you guys know that friendly children have more friends?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah.
That's true. I knew that. Did you guys know that winter babies are better at music?
Everyone knows that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. So obvious.
Oh, hey, guys, did you know that most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
Huh, didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure I knew that. I'm pretty sure you didn't.
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right car seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Welcome to the Westwood One NFL pregame show, built by the Home Depot. Got an idea? Let's do this smarter and for less. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. Now, here's your host, Scott Graham.
From our Westwood One studios in New York, getting you ready for the New York Jets and Miami Dolphins at Wembley Stadium today. Big game for both teams in terms of the division. New York Jets, of course, coming in with a 2-1 record after having won their first two on the year. They dropped a home game against Philadelphia last week. Quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick throwing 3 interceptions in that game. One of the things the Jets have done, though, is keep their quarterback clean. Coming into this game, they've given up only 2 sacks total in the first 3 games of the season. That's tied for second fewest in the National Football League. A big part of that, of course, is the big guy on this offensive line, left tackle DeBrickashaw Ferguson, who not only plays, but plays every game, every play over the course of his career. He got an opportunity earlier this season after a 4-12 year last year to see his team come out of the blocks at 2-0. A lot of excitement about that, and I asked him about it when we talked this week.
You know, it does feel good to win games, but again, you know, it's a long season, so we don't want to get too high or get too low, but we want to make sure that we can week in and week out give it our best and play, you know, Jets football.
The quarterback that you have right now is a guy who has done a very good job of not only managing the game, but he also is somebody who he's willing to take chances downfield with the ball. He's not a guy who is going to be as apt to perhaps run with the football. Tell me a little bit about your quarterback.
No, I don't know. I mean, Fitz, he has some feet. I don't know if you've ever seen him run. He accelerates pretty quickly, so I wouldn't discount that. It's kind of funny to watch. Oh man.
I mean, Ryan has had, you know, periods of time. He's one of those guys who, when he gets going, can get very hot in terms of delivering the football. And he's got guys on the outside. You know, you got a Brandon Marshall that you can throw to. That's going to make things work a little bit better. It seems like offensively, you guys have the potential to be able to move the ball downfield better right now than maybe you've had in a little while.
Well, I definitely feel that we are developing a rhythm. I think it's something that just comes with practice, and it's something that we've been trying to emphasize. And so I think it's great. You know, Brandon Marshall is a very talented, big, strong, and fast wide receiver that, you know, defensive players have to contend with, as well as our other wide receivers like Decker and Curley and those guys that, you know, really make us go. I mean, we have just a lot of wide receivers to choose from, and then, you know, when we're in those personnels, I think it makes it hard for opposing teams to match up.
You got an opponent that you see an awful lot of twice a year, and in some ways you know some things about them. This is a different look for them in the defensive front. They've been a little frustrated that it hasn't gone the way that they have wanted to so far, but when you take a look at film, what do you see out of the Miami Dolphins?
Well, definitely a physical group, a very talented group. You know, their whole front four definitely offers people problems if you don't prepare and make sure that, you know, you do everything to match their intensity. Again, they've lost some guys, but they've added some key players with Sue, and, you know, they've always had Cam Wake there, who's always a great threat, and Vernon on the other side. So, you know, it's just going to be important for us to make sure, you know, we understand our matchup, understand, you know, what we're going into as we, you know, travel to London, and just try to prepare ourselves to play, you know, a physical and tough game.
Talking with the New York Jets, DeBrickashaw Ferguson. This situation has you traveling a very long way, changing time zones, playing a game that, you know, according to your body, it's going to be 9:30 in the morning. What kind of preparation has gone into that?
You know, we've definitely taken a look at how best to prepare for this game, whether it be, you know, wearing a certain eyewear, blue blockers, I guess that keeps out a certain light when you're looking at devices that prevent sleep. You know, and we've had just different measures, whether it be not drinking alcohol, I think within an hour of going to bed, or coffee after 2 p.m. You know, sleep is one of a great factor for being healthy and being able to produce at a high level. And then obviously when you're having a 5-hour transition, it's going to be key to make sure that, you know, you're well rested and can operate at your best. So we've just been really focusing on the small things and just trying to do everything to hydrate and just make sure that, you know, we don't miss the small details that can make a big difference.
Last thing. For a guy who has spent so much time being a rock as part of this offensive line for the New York Jets and has, you know, 3 Pro Bowls now, there was a time, my understanding is, in the beginning of high school where you almost walked away from football. Can you tell me about that?
Well, you know, I think it was just understanding, you know, how the game works at times. I think I was just a little bit low. I wasn't, you know, performing well, and I just got discouraged. And I had one of my coaches, Tim Halverson, just took a little time with me and and just helped me to see it for what it was and not necessarily give up something that could, be good for me. Whether I made it to the NFL or not, I think just going through that experience and understanding what it was to kind of overcome an obstacle kind of helped me see that, it's not always going to be rosy and it's not always going to be optimal for you, but if you push through it, good things can happen. And I think it was a true testament, and good things did happen. So, it's just a young guy learning how to kind of go through some growing pains.
DeBrickashaw Ferguson, part of a New York Jets offense that has been more effective this year, especially in the red zone. They're scoring on 73% of their red zone drives this season. Last year, it was just 36%. That was last in the National Football League. Up next, a conversation with Miami Dolphins safety Rashad Jones. You're listening to the NFL on Westwood One.